Welcome to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast, where we discuss cutting-edge techniques, industry trends, and business insights to take your fence or deck company to the next level and dominate your competition. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Danner, and also the founder of Fence and Deck Marketers, which is a digital marketing agency that works exclusively with fencing and decking companies. Today, have a great episode that's going to be all about sales. So with my guest today, we're going to be diving deep into sales for contractors and how you can improve your sales process within your business to make, get more leads, turn leads into conversions and, make more money for the business. So today I have Nick Stevens from Legacy Decks, who is a senior sales consultant at Legacy Decks, which is a $5 to $6 million deck business in South Carolina that's owned by Chris and Amy Breen. And, Nick, appreciate it coming on the podcast, taking the time out, really looking forward to this. How's it going?
Doing well. Appreciate you having me on. Super excited about the opportunity to share kind of some of my story. I know you had Chris on a couple of weeks ago, and so excited to kind of build on that. And hopefully my answers line up with what he told you as well. So excited about that.
I'm sure they will. I know you guys are close and kind of, two peas in the pod. I feel like whenever I see Chris, you guys are always doing something together. So I know you guys are, best friends. But it's funny. I wanted to tell this story because I actually met Nick at Legacy Day Experience. Some of you may have heard this, that listen to the podcast, and I know at least some have, but it's called Legacy Day Experience, or LDX. And Nick was actually one of the coaches along with Chris at LDX. So basically day one, when I decided to join and we got kind of things kicked off, I was introduced to Coach Chris. No longer any kind of, I guess it was just, straight business. There's no friendliness as much from there. But if you never heard of LDX, it's a really a life-changing experience and something I have a hard time explaining what it is, and actually might be good to see how you explain it, because for me, it's kind of tough when people ask, and a lot of people do, especially if they see the video and, the promotions. Everyone's always interested, but I always say like a personal development boot camp, but it's kind of not, like, really undersells it. And honestly, it could be its own episode, which would be cool to do. I don't know, Nick, how would you describe it? It would be really interesting to know.
Yeah. So, I mean, the personal development boot camp aspect, like you said, it kind of touches a nerve to it, but ultimately it's for us, it's a passion project where we've really built out a system and protocol to guide other men through a similar journey that both Chris and I have experienced, where we focus on, what we refer to as our core four: our body, our being, our balance, and our business. And the message that I was always told is, you have a million different people that are out there, influencers, that hit the gym, super jacked, like take care of themselves, but then they can't pay their bills, or they're a deadbeat dad. Or you have this great business guy, but his spirituality is junk, and his wife, stays with him for the money, but they're not happy. Or you have, the yoga guru that is perfectly in tune with his chakras and all that other stuff, but can't pay his cell phone bill. And so it's like, why can't we have all of those things? Why can't you balance all four areas of your life? And so that's really what we bring to other men, to teach them, like, hey, this is how you can, have it all lifestyle. It's not an easy path of life. It's not this, hey, this is how we'll make sure that you're, rich and jacked and happy in your marriage, and your kids will love you, and you'll, ascend straight to heaven as soon as you die. Like, no, like it's a lot harder than that. But it really is just a focus on doing all of those things. But most importantly, it's the community of other men and other like-minded men, so that you can lean on them when you need help, when you have questions. And sometimes the fastest way to go where you want to go is ask someone who's already done it. And that's the beauty of the LDX group. For me personally, being a father of two young children, I have leaned on this group more in the last 3 years than I probably ever have or ever thought I would, because it's hard being a dad, and it's hard being a dad and a husband at the same time. So being able to lean on those men for help, advice, like, hey, have you tried this? What would you recommend doing here? So the community, honestly, is what makes LDX such a success. The teaching and everything like that. I think I said at your graduation, like, we just provide the framework. The men that show up and do the work, they're the real value add to all their brothers that go through it. And now we've done three women's groups now, and the women are absolute badasses in it. It's incredible to see them go through that and see that transformation. And Amy and Lacey handle that. So I know that's a little bit broader sweeping and digs down a little bit, but yeah, it's a men's personal development group and accountability group that allows men to reach new heights in the four areas of their life that typically they want to be better at.
Yeah, no, that's well said. And um, yeah, I think we could talk about it for forever. And actually, I would like that. I probably should plan a podcast about that. But if you guys are interested, you can just Google it, Legacy Day Experience, if you want to check it out. If you're just curious, there's some videos and stuff on there. But yeah, ever since joining LDX, gotten to know Nick pretty well, and honestly, say he's a great guy and really just someone who genuinely wants to help people and cares about helping others get better. And when I asked about the podcast, I mean, he immediately jumped on it. And I think today everyone's going to get a lot of really good, just really good, I guess, knowledge. I can't think of a better word for that right now, but just a lot of things that they can apply that you can apply to your business. But let's just jump into it, Nick, and kind of learn a little bit more about your background, kind of how you got started, and really anything leading up to Legacy Decks would be interesting, kind of up to the point where you started working there, and anything up to that point.
Yeah, so I like a lot of the people that are on our sales team had zero experience in construction. I worked a landscaping job during college during the summers to pretty much humping pavers around the job site, mixing mud, all that fun stuff. And my boss then used to tell me, "You get paid to stink, not to think. Keep moving." So that was my only experience in the construction world. And so after college, I did what most kids did of, hey, I've got a business management degree. Um, Job market wasn't great at the time in 2009. So I got a job working for Enterprise Rent-A-Car, moved my way up the ladder there to a station manager here in Greenville, South Carolina at the airport. Um, but it wasn't going anywhere. I really realized that wasn't a good fit for me. I then switched over to commercial insurance, working for a large international broker doing that. Was even worse at that and probably even more miserable at that as well. And so that actually came to an abrupt end about 6 months before I was set to get married to my first wife. And so about a month after I was let go from that company, I met Chris. They had just purchased Legacy Decks from the previous owner, and they weren't quite sure where they needed to hire anybody or anything like that. But Chris and I met, and immediately there was just that connection. Anybody that's met Chris knows that he's got that charisma about him, and those kind eyes that you're just like, you know what, there's something about this guy. And I remember going home and be like, I got to go work for this guy. And my wife at the time was like, well, why? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, you know nothing about construction. I'm like, I'll figure it out. Like, I just got to work for this guy. So fast forward a year later, and I was working at a software company doing business development. So just getting my ass kicked on the phone every single day by people that didn't want to talk to me, didn't remember filling out a form, wasn't the right person to talk to. And I realized this morning when you were asking me, kind of some of the roles that I've had here, I'm like, man, that job probably was the one that prepped me the most for, dealing with homeowners and everything like that. But um, I was doing that, and then one day I'd got an email from Chris and Amy saying, "Hey, we're ready. We'd like to bring you on." And it was almost a no-brainer for me to jump on with them, and then came into Legacy Decks at that point. Actually, was hired as a project manager for the first, I think it was about 10 months that I was here.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the rest, yeah, rest is history.
Yeah. The project management, luckily, it shouldn't have been 10 months. It probably should have been about 10 days. It was definitely not the right fit for me, but we, like most companies, we struggled through and, tried a bunch of things that didn't work until we finally ended up where we found some success.
Nice, nice. Okay, well, I spent a good amount of time on these questions because I was really trying to think of like, I don't know, I guess what is most common. Whoever listens, they can kind of think about their own business and the problems that they have that would apply. And first one that came to mind, objection handling. I have to do it all the time too. I'm just really curious what you see as the most common objections, and maybe we could talk about how you get past them, any kind of steps that you have to, really address them.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, everybody's most common objection is, well, that's way too much money that, I wasn't planning on spending that much money. Or for us, is like, wow, you're way more than the other guys. And before, I would always jump back in and start defending, well, we do this, we do that, and as soon as you get defensive about why you're charging what you're charging, you're almost at a disadvantage. You're on your heels. Like at that point, it makes sense usually just to bow out anyways, because you haven't done enough to demonstrate the value on the front end. And so now what I tell people, and they're like, yeah, you're way more expensive than the other quotes. Well, we should be. And just let them marinate in the silence there, because more often than not, they're going to be like, well, yeah, you guys were going to do the PVC tongue and groove ceiling. The other guy, I think, was doing vinyl. Um, you guys did have the showroom where we really liked that decking, but they showed us this other stuff that I know it's cheaper, but I didn't really like it as much. And then they start giving you all of the reasons that why you were more expensive, but you were giving them what they actually wanted, not what they kind of wanted for, their price point. Because more often than not, when we have people come in and talk to us, they give us a number that this is as much as I'm going to spend. And they do end up spending a little bit more. And that's usually through our process where we navigate like, hey, like if you really want to get everything that you want, we're gonna need you to open up the checkbook a little bit more. It's going to be fair pricing, but we're going to do right by you with our very transparent pricing. Um, that's probably our most common. The other one, man, I don't know. I think pricing one is usually the one that we run into the most. Every once in a while, we do get um, people complaining that we're too far out. Well, I found somebody that could do it sooner. And, that's one of those good problems to have. We're always looking for good builders to keep up on the production side of things, but we don't want to bring in so many crews that, we burn through a whole sold jobs book in 2 weeks, and then we're scrambling to sell when
Yeah.
our sales cycle can take 3-4 weeks from first appointment to closing, because it does take a process. So I think we're up to 5 full-time crews right now. So having that built out and having people understanding upfront, like, hey, right now we're booking into late October, early November at this point, and it might go sooner depending on weather, but realistically that's what you should be looking at. So that's probably our
Gotcha.
second biggest rebuttal right now.
So when you say we should be, do they just sit there? You just basically wait for them to feel awkward and then say something back, and then they just kind of like sputter out all the things like that. I mean, how's that typically handle after you hit them with that? Because I like that. It's a powerful
Yeah,
statement.
well, I mean, it's silence is something that most people are very uncomfortable with, and that was something that I really had to work on myself, because I'm from up north. I'm a Yankee. I love to talk. Some people would say I love to hear myself talk. And so settling in silence and letting somebody else fill that is such a powerful tool in sales, that it just shows people that you're confident with the price that you've given them.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not going to change my price. When people ask for a discount, or, hey, can you do it cheaper? Well, I know I can do it for more. And it's one of those things, like, and having fun, like honestly having fun with your homeowners, because a lot of the stuff that we teach to our team here and teach to our clients in the academy is that you're battling against the kind of the standard contractor that's out there, the contractor that most homeowners have dealt with and had a bad experience of
Yep.
in the past. And so how do we make that mind shift? How do we make that culture shift so that all of a sudden you're doing things differently? And that's how you're really going to stand out.
Gotcha. And I was also thinking, so when you come in, you're more expensive. Some people might think it's I mean, first, I guess there's definitely those people that probably aren't your avatar, but they jump and say like, "Oh, this is a ripoff. Like you're just being greedy or something like that." So I know those typically aren't the ones you want anyways, but I am
Mhm.
curious, like to establish that trust, in the very beginning, like are there any ways that you like really try to build that rapport and trust, before you start getting into the pricing and things like that? I mean, anything you speak to that?
Yeah, so I mean, that really starts, I tell everyone that starts at the very beginning. Like if somebody in our market Googles deck builders Greenville, South Carolina, we're going to pop up number one. They're going to click on our website. I know you mentioned there's a few areas that we can improve our website, which obviously always looking for those, but it's like, okay, it's a professionally built website. It has photos of their work. It has an easy way to get in contact with us and request a quote. That is step number one. Like that shows people, okay, reputable company.
Yep.
Then they fill out a form. Madigan, who's our front desk, our director of first impressions, she's on it like that. She's immediately calling that homeowner to find out a little bit more about their project, see if they are a good fit. So now they're having a great experience with her. She runs them through, sets up an appointment, say with me. So today, I know she booked me one for Thursday. And this was yesterday, I immediately shot over a message with a video message to that homeowner saying, "Hey, Jason, this is Nick with Legacy Decks. Would love
Like
to
that.
hop on a quick call with you to find out a little bit more about your project. Make sure I got all my ducks in a row." Now, I stuttered during that video and I like blah, blah, like jumbled over my words. I'm like, there we go. I still sent the video because it's an authenticity
Yeah.
aspect for me of like, listen, like I'm I'm a deck consultant. Like I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not going to put on airs that we're going to, have this all figured out. It's construction. We'll work through it. So I do that. And then he immediately said, "Hey, sure. Like I can hop on a call anytime tonight." Well, he's like, "Is it easier to FaceTime so you can see the space?" And I'm like, "Awesome. I'm going to have face-to-face contact with my homeowner before I walk on site." So we did a 25-minute FaceTime with him and his spouse. We walked the entire space. I saw the view out of their off their back deck onto the pool. Saw what they had going on, where they wanted to put a hot tub, a grill area. They already had a roof, so my wheels start turning immediately. But that's where I really start to build the value of like, hey, I know we're going to be more expensive than your other quotes. And I always tell people that when we get on those calls, is like, listen, you've probably gotten other quotes. I'm going to tell you right out the gate, I'm probably going to be the most expensive quote that you've gotten. And once again, sit in that silence and like, yeah, like this is what the guy said last night. He goes, "Yeah, I went on your website and it's definitely different than the other websites of the guys that have come out here already." And but you mentioned one thing, Nick. You mentioned something as simple as pulling a permit. He goes, "Nobody else has brought that up." And I'm like, "Well, it's one of those little things that makes a big difference long term for us." And so I walked them through our entire process, and now they are super excited for our appointment. Our appointment's tomorrow morning at 8:30. So they're psyched about it. They already said, "All right, we're going to make sure we're both here. You need a full hour. Do you need longer than that?" And I'm like, "Nope, we will be able to wrap everything in an hour." So now I've got somebody that's excited to meet with me, isn't just gonna, I show up at the time booked, have my tape measure, my iPad, and say, "All right, where's the deck?" And just measure it, take some photos, and be like, "All right, well, what do you want back here?" So I've already prepped them with our process, prepped them with some basic questions to make sure that I even have a chance when I go out there. And
Yeah.
so that's really how I tend to make sure that I'm working with the right clientele and kind of avoiding that price thing. Like I address it, you know, what's the monkey in the room type thing. Address that before it's even an issue. Like if you address those basic questions early on, they're going to go to their secondary questions. And those are usually the more personal, the real deep dive questions to find out what are their buying triggers, what are the things that they want out of a contractor, not just the what the contractor does. And so that's where, I think most of my success over the years has come is when I do that and I do that consistently, I run better quality appointments.
Yeah. And it's, when the videos that you're doing, because
Hmm.
I was introduced that with you and Chris. You guys started sending videos and like you did all your intros to people, like networking. I was like, so it was caught me so off guard. Never seen it before, And now I do it all the time because I'm like,
Yep.
this is a better way to do it. So have you guys been doing that for a while? And is that something you do every time to, kind of make that connection and be a little bit more personable?
So I don't do it every time.
Okay.
I should be doing it every time.
Gotcha.
So it's something that, I got used to just doing because sometimes it's just easier to send a video message or even an audio message. Um, if you want to be a little bit more basic, if you don't like being on camera, but it's one of those things, putting yourself out there, it drops people's guards. It drops
Yeah.
that wall that they have of like, oh, this is just a sales guy. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is just this Nick guy from Legacy Decks is coming out. They see, oh, it's Nick. Now they've
Yeah.
seen my face. Now I show up. Now it's like automatically that barrier is dropped. But having that ability to just open up to the person, it just that's where it really brings that value. But I personally, after that one yesterday, that kind of gave me that new shot in the arm of like, all right, I need to be doing this with every single one of my homeowners. Because like you said, most people aren't doing it, and it instantly differentiates you from anybody else that's in your market.
Yeah. And I mean, if you have like a friendly video too, because I know at least most contractors are like, they can be kind of grumpy, like some guy comes
Yeah.
over, he just like makes you feel stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you have like a friendly guy, you're like, oh, okay, like your energy's up, that kind of thing. I mean, I think that's a game changer. I really love
Hmm.
that idea. So, okay, so let's see. I know that you guys, I mentioned this earlier, you want to go after a certain avatar, you want to do the best you can to go after guys that have money, like ones that
Yeah.
can afford these nicer decks. You're not going after the tiny little jobs and just competing based off price. So how do you guys pre-qualify? How do you really find that? What are some ways that you make sure that you have the highest percentage of good leads or not leads, good estimates,
Hmm.
actually going out? What do you guys do to pre-qualify?
Yeah, so obviously, having the website, they're going to see the photos. They're going to be like, okay, like if price is their driving factor, they're going to look it through our stuff and be like, okay, they're way more than I want to spend. They may not even fill out a form. That's part of the pre-qualification process. Then if they do fill out a form or they call into the office, Madigan's going to run them through some basic questions. Are do they want what we're offering? If somebody calls and says, hey, we need to restain our deck. Well, we don't do maintenance aspects. We don't do repair work. So we're not the right fit there. Are they in our market? If somebody calls us and they're, 3 hours away, that's yes. Would we go there? Absolutely, we can, but we're gonna have to charge extra for get the material down there. We're gonna have to charge extra to get the crew down there. If it's a 2 week project, we're probably gonna have to put the crew up in hotels so they're not driving 6 hours every single
Yeah.
day just to work. So that's a big thing there. And then time frame. If somebody calls us and says, "Hey, I'm listing my house next week. I need to get this deck replaced like this weekend." Well, that's not really how we operate. Not going to be a good fit for us there.
Yeah.
So she runs through just the basic questions there. Like I think there's only like 4 or 5 questions that she really needs to navigate. We have added into that process what we call a quick call. So if a homeowner's getting a little bit more technical or she's not quite sure, like this might be good or might not be, she can book a 20-minute phone call with any one of us on the consulting side, and we can hop on a call and dive a little bit deeper because we can answer some of the more specific questions. So, but if she's like, all right, cool, this is a good appointment, they're in our market. Oh, great, you're available this Wednesday. Boom, Nick's available. I'm going to have him come out at 8:30. He's going to go through this and walks him through a little bit of the process. Nick's going to give you a call here in the next couple of hours. Typically, tell people within the next 24 hours, you'll hear from your consultant. We have some automation built on the back end, but like most people, they get automations like, okay, yeah, I know about the alert. I've added the deck consultation to my calendar. I'm not going to read everything else they send over. So that's where me sending a video to hop on a call really breaks that monotony of the generic, kind of uh, email sequences or anything like that. So when I get on a call, we actually have a pre-qualification script. And I'm hoping to speak at an event in January doing something called the power of the pre-qual, because this is where my past experience as a business development rep in software sales, we had a set, I think it was 32 different questions that we had to get answered and filled out into a Word document that had and then uploaded into the CRM. Salesforce is what we used then. and then it may or may not get accepted by the inside sales team. So I had to have all 32 of those questions answered. And so I got really good at figuring out like, okay, these are kind of the basic questions in groups. All right, I may ask question 4, that may trigger this. And so it's kind of like playing bingo. You ask a question, you might get 3 answers and you're filling out that form. And so we started using a pre-qualification form about 3.5 years ago, to where all of our sales rep have this script. They make it their own, use your verbiage, like practice it, by doing like role playing stuff like that here in the office. If you're doing phone role playing, go back to back so you don't get the advantage of seeing someone's facial expressions when you ask questions. So that's a little tidbit there for you. So I do that pre-qualification, and then at the end of the call, I said, all right, if we find you a solution, that keeps, maintenance super low, gives you the look that you're needing, gives you that extra space for grilling, all of that, and are able to produce a design that, really wows you, do I have an opportunity to earn your business? More often than not, they're going to tell me, yes, you have a chance.
Yeah.
And at that point, that's one yes that the homeowner's given me. So now when I get out on site and I start walking through our process and I get to the point where, hey, we do a plan and design agreement, we're going to charge $1,000 for that. Is that something that you want to move forward with to really dial this in and get a visualization of what we can do for you? It's a lot easier for them to say yes then again. So now they've said yes twice. So then by the time we get to where I have a full scope proposal ready for them, and they're like, I'm like, all right, are we ready to move forward, get this signed so we can get you on the books? Yes. So I'm not asking for my first yes when I'm asking for that big, deposit check and have them sign a contract. So the pre-qualification phase is really how we dial in with majority of our clients, to make sure that we're working with the right clients. Because at that point, we have the opportunity, like even if they've booked an appointment, we can cancel that appointment if we walk through a pre-qualification and just realize, hey, you know what, we're not the right fit for you as a homeowner. And I tell them at the beginning, like the purpose of my call is just to make sure that we're the right fit for you as a contractor and you're the right fit for us as a homeowner. And even that just blows people away at times, because like, wait a minute, like you're not going to like beg for my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, no, because that won't work for anybody.
Yeah.
It won't work for you as a homeowner. It won't work for us as a business. We want to make sure that we're spending time with the people that want to spend time and money with us.
Yeah. And do you ever get customers that are a little bit on the fence? I mean, I don't know, I don't know your market, but I don't know, maybe there's some other bigger, some other deck companies that are pretty well established too.
Yep.
So I mean, if somebody's on the fence, they're like, legacy decks or ABC decking, whatever, is there anything that if they're on the fence, like towards the end of the process, like after you've already showed them the cost, maybe it's a little bit higher or whatever. I mean, is there anything that last part of the sales process right before they're like ready to sign with somebody that you kind of plug in there to motivate them?
So, I mean, I don't think there's anything at the tail end that you can do to really get somebody over the hump. It's really one of those things. You have to have multiple dominoes fall during any sales cycle. We're not a one call close operation. That works for some companies. That doesn't work for us. And so for me, if somebody is usually out the gate, isn't really clicking with me, it's just not going as smooth as we'd like, it's possible to convert them over the long term of the sales cycle, but realistically, I almost know after the first appointment, I have a pretty good idea whether this is going to go well or not well. Um, and so by the time we get to the end, it's really if I've built up the rapport with that homeowner and I've said, hey, listen, I know we've come in a little bit higher than you wanted to be. And they'll be like, well, what can we do to bring the price down? And I'm transparent with them. Like, listen, like I can't adjust the price because I'm not messing with our margins. I'm not messing with our markup. I can, we can maybe take some things off, or if you want to look at this from a, 2-tier system of like, hey, this is phase 1, this is phase 2 type thing. Hey, we can look at that. Case in point, I had a homeowner just last month. They told me they were hard and fast, didn't want to spend over $40,000. I'm like, okay, well, I know we're going to be over that number. I don't know if we necessarily should do the plan and design agreement because everything you're asking me to design and price out, I know I can't do for you at 40,000. They said, well, yeah, well, let's maybe look at it in phases. Show us what we can do for this. But we'd like to see the big picture. We designed the whole picture, which was a whole backyard transformation. I mean, probably $250,000 project all in with the pavers, the landscaping, the lighting, everything. Well, they ended up signing a contract with us for 83,000 on just the decks. And it was one of those things. Yeah, they're like, yeah, we saw the photo and we are like, you know what? Let's just do it. We want to do it now. The landscaping, like that gave us a full vision of like, holy crap, that's what we can have in our backyard. And so that was one where I kind of pulled back early on, like maybe like, hey, you know what? Maybe this doesn't make sense for you to move forward with us at this time. And that gave them like giving them that permission to tell me no made them feel more comfortable with me to say yes and be like, okay, like Nick's not just going to try to sell us something we don't want or just bow the knee to us and our budget to say, all right, fine, 40,000, you know what, we'll make it happen. And then it's like, okay, well, where are we going to cut corners to make it into that 40,000 market? For us, we just said, all right, look, probably the best I can do on this one deck for you is probably closer to 52. Can you meet me there? And they're like, okay, if we've got to go to 52, we'll do that. But then they saw both decks that we designed and it was 83. And they're like, all right, you know what? Let's just do it.
Nice. I like that. And I was just curious. I mean, because obviously Google Maps is the thing. You can kind of see like, I mean, before the pre-qualification, is that play into it all? Just kind of seeing like the potential, I guess, the
Oh
house,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, So Madigan will hop on Zillow, Redfin, like anything she can find for photos of the house and attach them into our notes for us so that when we do
Nice.
that
Nice.
pre-qual, like we're hopping in, we're looking at everything, any little details that we can think. Google Maps is really good. Most people don't use Google Earth to its full potential because you can get a lot more views. You can also get a little bit better idea of what the slopes and everything like that are with Google Earth.
Huh. Okay. I think you can do measurements with them too. Like you can kind of
Yep.
measure. I measured out my deck behind me.
Yep.
See
I've
how big
I've
that was.
done Google Earth measurements a few times. They're close enough for if you need to do like a rough estimate over the phone. But definitely they're not it's not going to replace getting on site, that's for sure.
Yeah. 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 Okay. And then, so you give an estimate. They are haven't gotten back to you. They said they're going to whatever. Does your follow up look like? How many times do you follow up? What mediums do you use? Text,
Mhm.
email, calls. How does that look?
So I'm a big fan of the phrase NSO or next step obsessed. So when I tell somebody I'm like, okay, out here running your appointment, I'm gonna get back to the office, get some numbers together. I'll be back to you within by tomorrow end of business. Okay, that's great. I make sure that I do my damnedest to make sure that I've got something to them by end of business the next day, even if it's not I don't have everything together yet. Like at least touch base with them to let them know, hey, I've got this out for quote. They said they should get it back to me first thing tomorrow morning. I am actively working on it. I haven't
Yeah.
forgotten about you. But then if somebody's like, yeah, we're getting a couple of other quotes. Okay, when are you getting those quotes back? Well, they told us by the end of next week. Okay, great. I'm going to follow up with you. I'm going to call you on Monday. What time on Monday works best for you? Then I will put it in my calendar to make sure. All right, call the Smiths on Monday at 2 o'clock because that's when they told me they'd be available. So I always make sure I don't okay, yeah, call me when you're ready to sign a check for me. Like I dictate the pace typically. So that way it's a lot faster for me to either move them out of my funnel or move them down my funnel.
Yeah.
And that's always the biggest thing. Your funnel can get really crowded with somebody that gave you a non-committal answer, and that doesn't do any help for you. It doesn't do any help for the client either. If you don't have a navigated, like, hey, what's our next step? Even if it's 2 weeks down the road, even if somebody says, hey, you know what, this is a lot more than we wanted to, digest. I think we're going to push this till later in the year. Okay, great. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a calendar invite. I'm going to call you at the beginning of November. So I put a calendar invite and I send it to them for November 1st. So it pops up on mine. I'm like, oh, all right. The Johnsons said they wanted to talk about something at the end of the year. I'm going to call them November 1st just to touch base and make sure that they're, I'm still here. I still have all your stuff. I've had people that have called me 2 years after I ran that first appointment that said, hey, you actually kept up with us for 2 years,
Yeah.
even though we kept telling you, maybe later, maybe later, maybe later. And they actually ended up signing. One of my favorite ones from this year was there's a home show 2 years ago. I ran the appointment. It was maybe an $8,000 railing replacement because it was almost a brand new deck at the time. Since then, the framing, the decking, everything is just, it's gone sideways on them. It went from an $8,000 project to a $123,000 project.
Yikes.
And it was because I kept in touch with them that they knew, like, all right, well, we're only using one person.
Yeah. And okay, and the calendar invites, I'm curious because you by now you've probably seen how I do it. You get texts and stuff, reminders, because without that, I mean, the conversion rate or the show up rates are ridiculously different. Even though I've heard some
Yep.
people say they're a little bit annoying, but what do you use that at all? I know you guys use high level, but have you ever
Yep.
used like text, like when they book a calendar invite, do they send text or anything, or how do you guys?
Yeah, so they'll get text and email with go high level.
Oh,
But
okay,
I'll
cool.
I'll even, like it's one of those things I like using the CRMs. I think they're super beneficial, especially for the automation aspect to keep you consistent there. But if I'm running 3 to 4 appointments per week at this point, and so for me, I want to give that personalized touch. I want them to know, like, hey, this is my one and only cell phone number.
Yeah,
And so, day of the appointment, I'll shoot a quick message like a couple hours before, like, hey, we're still good for 2 o'clock today, right? Like a very like something a friend would send, like, hey, we're still grabbing dinner after work, right? So having that aspect and that connection with your homeowner is just, it's such a benefit to breaking that sales resistance that most people have. They're like, oh, this is a salesperson. He's going to try and sell me something that I don't want. And at the end of the day, like I don't want to sell any, but like I can't sell you anything. You can decide to hire us, but I'm not going to sell you on anything.
yeah, I like that. Okay, and then all right, so once the job's done, we were talking about this a little bit already before we started recording, but referral programs, you know, trying to get, friends of friends and family members, stuff like that. Do you guys do anything with referral programs?
We do not right now. We do an after project gift basket from Omaha Steaks, which our homeowners love. We've done a good job of, on active jobs, starting to do. I know Chris mentioned this kind of the 6 pack of knocking. So the 2 houses to the right, 2 houses to the left, 2 houses straight across the street, just to let them know, like, hey, we're going to be in the area. But after a job is finished, we have not done a great job, honestly, of asking for that referral. We'll ask once, but we don't ask a second time. Like we don't realistically, in my world, I would love for us to, and case in point, I need to be the one leading the charge here of asking for the referral when we sign a contract, asking for a referral when we start the job, asking for a referral when we finish the job, asking for a referral 3, 4, 5 months down the road after they've enjoyed the space, because you never know who it might be, and asking for a referral. And yeah, we still get people that send them our way, but at the end of the day, we'll have people that are in the same neighborhood, and we have a neighborhood right now where every single person on our team has sold a job in that neighborhood. And that shouldn't be the case. That should be the one person that sold the first job in there should have every job that's been in that neighborhood, because they should have gone door knocking. They should have asked for those referrals. Like if you sell a job in a neighborhood, it should be like, now I can feast. Like I'm going to sell a deck to every single person in this neighborhood because we're going to knock it out of the park on this one, and all the dominoes down the line are going to go. And we haven't done a good job of that. So it's, like I was telling you, it's an area that we know we need to improve on. And it's definitely something that as we continue to grow, to get past that 5 to 6 million, to get to that 8, 9, 10 million plus range, we have to be proactive in recruiting our ideal client. And what better way to find your ideal client than the person that lives next door?
Yeah. Same
Like they're
sort of stuff.
typically going to be in a similar demographic, a similar tax bracket, similar income level. Like they want to keep up with the Joneses. They don't want to have the worst deck in the neighborhood. They don't want to have the best deck in the neighborhood. But like, hey, how do we continue to have this cool space that you built for Bill and Jill next door? Well, we want that. We like to grill out too. It's like, all right, great. And then you create that space for them. And so finding that way to ask for those referrals is something that we're actively working on. So I know we've got some door hangers coming this week that we're excited about to really start pushing that door knocking.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay. I want to talk about because I know you've managed a sales team and you've had several, sales guys underneath you, sales women. I'm not sure how it is, but
Mhm.
um, how many? Just to start, how many did you were you managing at one time?
So I had four salespeople under me. We had gone through, we've probably had 9 or 10 total salespeople over the lifespan that I've been here. Um, so it's not a huge sales team. It's not a 20-person sales team. Getting 200 leads a month, but it's also it's not a one-man operation. It's not something where our owners are running appointments or anything like that either.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'm just curious. I want to dig in to see how you manage it because I don't know all the listeners. They don't tell me that data, but I'm sure there's pretty wide array of
Hmm.
sizes of businesses, and there's probably a lot that don't even have salespeople. Then there's probably some that I would say the majority either don't have a salesperson or just don't have a big sales team. So
Yep.
how did you track everything with sales internally, like to keep track of how many leads you did, your closing percentages, where did you manage all
Hmm.
those stats?
Yeah, so we use 90IO for
Okay.
all of our teams, our production team, our overall team, and then our sales team. And so we're tracking all of the metrics that are important to us from a sales perspective, like how many leads came in, how many appointments got booked, how many appointments got ran. And then that's broken out by salesperson. Like what's their, close ratio? What's their design fee close ratio? What's their design fee to close contract close ratio? Like if we see somebody drop off, like they're getting a bunch of design fees, but they're not converting to closed sales, like something's going on there that we need to address. But really, it's a great way to start predicting where the trajectory of the company is going. Like if we see, we have a big windfall of sales, well, then the next couple of weeks, typically we'll see not as many sales because our pipeline's getting rebuilt up. And so on that area, we're going to look at our, planning pipeline and our design fee pipeline. If those are ticking up, even when sales are, staying stagnant, like, or not being anything at all, then we know like, hey, the pipeline's getting rebuilt. It's going to come. And that's the ebb and flow of sales. But that's really where we're going to track every single salesperson's metrics to see, hey, who's pulling their weight and who's not.
Yeah. Okay. And that's all based off EOS, right? 90.io.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Um, okay. And then I'm just curious. So motivation with the sales guys, I'm sure there's been lots of dips and things, you've had to manage with that. I mean, how
Hmm.
did you really keep everyone motivated, keep everyone on track and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so for us, even though salespeople are competitive, so we have a very competitive bunch, but it's all about teamwork. Like, hey, how can we help you? Like when we hit our slow period, usually right now is kind of that lull of right before school starts, right after it starts. First day of school was yesterday for our market, and so we always see a little bit of a lull there. So at that time, usually we play a little bit of catch up with some of the bigger jobs, like getting them across the finish line, or we're jumping in with other salespeople and be like, hey, can I just run the appointment with you? And not as like oh, I want half of the commission or anything like that. Like, let's just go have fun. Let's just go
Yeah.
see how somebody else is selling. And so we do a lot of that to, stay motivated. But then, as you've seen, Chris and Amy have done an unbelievable job of the personal culture here. So we really invest in our team as individuals. Like, hey, how are they showing up as fathers? How are they showing up as mothers? How are they showing up as spouses? And it's funny when we start showing up better at home, it's amazing how much better you show up at work. When your
Yeah.
home life's rough, work tends to either be that escape, or work just ends up being, rough as well. And then work's rough in sales when you're commission only. Well, that can be a little bit stressful. Money's not coming in. That can make home life stressful. So it feeds itself. And so they've done an unbelievable job. And it's something that I really take to heart, because I realized that they're not just salespeople that are selling decks that are trying to make a number for our bottom line. Like, these are people that we've invited into our community, invited into our culture, and how they operate as people is super important to us. And we know they care. And so if they are in that slump, all right, how do we get out of it together? Like, we share the lows together and we celebrate the highs together.
Gotcha. I like that. And like, I guess all the changes you made, you probably made it I mean, a ton since you first started there, 6, 7 years ago. Anything that sticks out, like changes that you made in that time that was like, wow, we should have done that a lot sooner, and was a real game changer?
Man, probably the planning and design phase, that we implemented about 2.5 years ago now. It was something we went back and forth on trying it. Didn't really seem to work. We were like, oh, you can do it if you want to. And we were running so many dang appointments. I mean, I remember coming out of home shows, I'd be like, I booked 30 appointments and I'd sell zero. And I'd get to a homeowner, they're like, okay, we want to see this option, this option, this option, this option. I did a proposal back in 2019 that had 15 different options for the homeowner to choose from. They chose none. So it was like I was doing all of this work for no payoff at the end. And so when we made that switch of like, hey, we're going to be kind of that design build type firm, that was a huge change for us. But it was also one of those things that we slowly started finding things out. It didn't just happen overnight. And realistically, if I said, oh, we should have gone back and started that back in 2018, it might not have worked. It almost like everything that we failed at almost had to happen in order for us to be successful. And that's something I always tell people. I'm like, I failed my way to success. I failed at all those jobs before now so that I could be successful at that. And took everything I learned from those failures to find the success now. But yeah, the planning and design phase has really revolutionized our game as a company. Um, it's changed our demographic to, see our average sales before the plan design phase was about 24,000. And over the last 4 years, right now it's grown to just over six figures.
Wow.
So yeah,
Awesome.
and that's just, it's a testament to just constant progress and improvement. It didn't happen overnight. There was little things. Obviously, pricing increases on material. We decided to stop doing wood decks and move strictly to composite. Now we're making that move away from wood framing and going with the alternative framing options that are out there. And as we're eliminating these things, it's narrowing maybe our ideal avatar for a client, but those are the people that we want to continue to attract. And we may do fewer jobs, but they're higher price jobs and they're the right jobs for us. And so that's really allowed for us to, continue to niche down as we've grown as a company as well.
Yeah, you're just making more money, and that's the whole goal, anyways. So,
Hmm.
okay, I want to touch because I know we're getting a little long on time here. I just wanted to touch on the Legacy Decks Academy because we talked about that. Chris and I did on his call. We did a whole episode for it.
Yep.
But what is your role in Legacy Decks Academy?
Yeah, so in the academy, we have our two kind of tiers. We have our inner circle, which is kind of our full service. That's where you have a lot of one-on-one coaching, helping you build out your, 90 IO scorecard. So that way we know exactly what metrics we're tracking, what you need to hit, setting up rocks, targets every single quarter, as well as in-person events that we have with other academy members, which, once again, part of that community. It's like you have 14 deck building companies come together in the same room, and it's amazing how many issues get solved really quick because
Yep.
you're asking somebody who's already tried it or already done it, or they're doing it too. Oh, hey, well, what about this? What about that? It just goes faster for a lot of these companies. So, and then we have our pro side of things, which is going to be more of your DIY, has access to a lot of the same tools that we have inside the vault, but it's going to be more for that self-starter, that kind of maybe that deck builder that isn't quite at that point where hiring a business coach makes sense. So we do the pro community, and I run our weekly calls within the pro community, and that's one. Once again, I mentioned this to you at the beginning of the call about LDX. It's the value of the people in the room. I tell everyone, if you're thinking about hiring a coach or thinking about joining any sort of community, it's ROI, it's return on involvement. If you sign up for something, signing up's the easy part. Showing up is the hard part. And if you show up consistently every single week to coaching calls, whoever it's with, whether it's with Legacy Dex Academy or any of the other contracting coaches out there, if you're not showing up to your calls, you're throwing your money away. If you show up to the calls, you will absolutely get your money and then some back. And so that's always my plea with any of our academy members when I'm onboarding them. I'm like, listen, if you don't show up for the calls, I'm probably tell you like, hey, you're not an ideal fit for us, because I don't like taking people's money and them not getting value. So the reality is, like, if you're not showing up, you're not going to get that value. So that's what I do on the academy side. And then also I help some of the inner circle members with their sales process, with their sales trainings. I've done some role playing calls where I'm a big Halloween fan, so I have a couple of wigs. And so I'll throw some wigs on, if we need to do some, real get into character, have fun with the role playing. Like, and I tell people like, hey, we're gonna act like idiots so that we can get that out of our system, and say, stumble over words, sound stupid with our colleagues, so that way when you get on the phone with your homeowner, you've already ironed that all out. You know how to think on the fly. You know how to deal with that eccentric homeowner that you're like, I couldn't like. I met with her and I couldn't get by her, weird big hair or whatever it may be. Like, hey, let's have fun with it. Let's navigate it, because at the end of the day, it's deck building. It's fun. Like, we get to do really cool stuff. And so why not have some fun with it?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And honestly, like just the amount of time that you're going to save too is just insane. And you maybe don't think about that until you actually are there. But I mean, I pay to be part of coaching groups too and masterminds, and I'm learning from much bigger agencies. And sometimes I kind of think back to like what I've done, what they've told me to implement that I have. And I'm like, how long would it have taken me to do like literally A B test this and like just try it out, fail until I got to this like blueprint? It would have taken me like a decade. I don't even know, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
You just never would think about that. And like, if you can see somebody's doing it and these are the results, I mean, it's something you just kind of have to do, in my opinion. And also the specific to your industry too. There's a lot of people, and I've hired like business coaches. I went through like Tony Robbins' program where he had like coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like some of my first ones, and I've had a couple since, but they weren't specific to marketing agencies. So like they didn't really speak the same language. It was some good, but mostly just didn't apply. So I
Yep.
always say that to anybody that whatever business you're in, find not only a coach, but like somebody that's done what you want, and you're going to save countless, amounts of time and stress. And also have somebody that, like you said, a community where you can, share those same stressors that everybody else has too. So I really do think, and I've talked to some clients, I've sent several over to Legacy Dex Academy, because if they are a deck builder, why wouldn't you at least try it out, I guess, or at least
Yep.
talk to you or talk to Chris, whoever, and kind of see, because it's likely going to save you a lot of time and make you a lot more money. So, um, but yeah, I mean, any additional things you'd like to add? Nuggets of wisdom, insights, anything like that, as we kind of wrap this up.
I mean, no real nuggets of wisdom or anything like that. As I said, my big thing is, I've failed my way to success. I continue to want to put myself into rooms where I feel like the dumbest person in the room, like you said, of hiring coaches and stuff like that, because that's where I continue to grow. When I get uncomfortable, that's where I grow. And being able to be a part of the academy has been an absolute blessing. My growing up, we were a family of entrepreneurs, and so the opportunity to work with other small businesses that are continuing to grow, wanting to grow. A lot of them are family businesses, and husbands and wives are working at these things. To be able to help them and have that aha moment of like, oh wow, we can do that. We can buy that truck now and not be like, all right, how are we going to pay for it? Or, hey, we know our numbers are right. Like those little things, those are what really motivate me when on the academy side of things to really help people. And it's once again, it's just like the deck side with helping homeowners, it's finding solutions, and it's really just me just guiding them along in that process. It's them finding that aha moment of like, oh wow, we can do this. And that to me, like that'll never get old. With the Olympics just ending, I realized like I love watching people win, because I know what it's like. Like life's hard enough now. And so for me to be able to be a part of a team that helps other people win at business, which is arguably one of the hardest things you can choose to do in life, helping them win is incredibly satisfying. So that's just my little piece of like why I love what I do.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I know we went a little bit long. I apologize, Nick, because I'm sure you got
Oh no,
busy
you're good.
schedule. But I think everything we went through was definitely worth talking about. I think anybody that was listening learned a ton. I mean, I really was excited about the sales side because I'm always a student of sales. I'd try to get a lot better, and I don't think I'm a great salesman. Probably never will, but always like talking about it and kind of the psychology behind it and things like that. So I think we went very deep on that, and I hope whoever's listening could take something from it, make their business better, and make more money. So thanks, Nick, for jumping on here and going forward with the Fence and Deck Mastery podcast. So I'm going to keep doing. We actually have had a really great lineup of guests. So within the past couple of weeks, I've been bringing on a lot of new guests, and I'm going to keep doing that, trying to keep finding new people that will bring some value to listeners, and looking forward to continuing to do that. And if this was valuable to you, we do need more reviews on the podcast platform. So if it is valuable, feel free to leave a review. It'd be a huge help, and subscribe to it too, so we can keep getting in front of more people. And of course, if you have any questions about your marketing for your fence or deck business, feel free to reach out. We're happy to talk about your business, your goals, kind of what you're looking for, and we can give you a snapshot of what you're doing now, and if there's any changes we recommend making. So feel free to reach out there. But yeah, that's it for today. Nick, appreciate you coming on here, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
All right, take care.